Hello students, in the last video we talked about a mystery story, The Key by Satyajit Ray, and we discussed at length first chapter. And today we are going to continue with the same discussion, and today we are going to talk about chapter 2. But before starting, let's have a discussion and take a quick recap on the story so far. So actually when we discussed chapter 1, we talked about Detective Feluda and his cousin who are visited by Moni Mohan Samadar, who is actually seeking help to uncover a mystery related to his deceased uncle Radha Raman Samadar. Radha Raman, when you talk about his character, he is a reclusive music lover with a passion for rare musical instruments. Also, despite his wealth, Radha Raman is extremely stingy and distances himself from his relatives. Radha Raman's last words are, "In my name key," which Moni Mohan thinks hints at a hidden fortune or some secret. Hence, Moni Mohan describes his uncle's peculiar lifestyle, wealth, and distrust of banks after a financial loss. Intrigued by this unusual mystery, Feluda actually agrees to investigate this case and solve this puzzle. Here chapter 1 ends and Feluda plans a visit to Radha Raman's home where he'll begin uncovering some clues about the cryptic key. So this was all about chapter 1, and today we are going to talk more about these mysterious elements in chapter 2 of the key. The chapter starts with journey of Feluda, Topshe and Mr. Samadar to the bungalow. We drove down Jessore Road and took a right turn after Barasat. This road led straight to Bamangachi. Our bungalow stood in the middle of a huge plot of land, surrounded by a pink boundary wall and rows of eucalyptus trees. The man who opened the gate for us was probably the Mali, for he had a basket in his hand. We drove up to the front door, passing a garage on the way. A black Austin stood in it. They are greeted by Anukul, a long-time servant who stays there to manage the property. An old man emerged from the house, looking at us inquiringly. "This is Anukul," Mr. Samadar said. "He had worked for my uncle for over 30 years. He'll stay on until we know what should be done about the house." There was a small hall behind the front door. It couldn't really be called a room. All it had was a round table in the middle and a torn calendar on the wall. After reaching there, let's see how they describe the bungalow. There were no light switches on the wall as the whole area did not receive any electricity at all. Beyond this hall was a door. Mr. Samadar walked over to it and said, "Look, this is the German lock I told you about. One could buy a lock like this in Calcutta before the Second World War. The combination is 8291. Was round in shape with no provision for a key." Now, Feluda explores Radha Raman's bedroom. The door with the German lock opened into Radha Raman Samadar's bedroom. It was a large room and it contained all the furniture Radha Raman's nephew had described. What was amazing was the number of instruments the room was packed with. Some of these were kept on shelves, others on a long bench and small tables. Some more hung on the wall. Feluda stopped in the middle of the room and looked around for a few seconds. He opened the almirah and the chest and went through both. Feluda searches the room, checking furniture, the bed, but finds no immediate clues. This was followed by a search of the table drawers, a small trunk he discovered under the bed. All it revealed was a pair of old shoes and a few rags, and all the instruments in the room. Feluda picked them up, felt their weight, and turned them over to see if any of them was meant to be operated by a key. Then he stripped the bed, turned the mattress over, and began tapping on the floor to see if any part of it sounded hollow. It didn't. It took him another minute to inspect the attached bathroom. he still found nothing. Then we have the arrival of Mr. Abani Sen and his son. The boy with the airgun arrived with a man of about 40. Mr. Samadar did the introductions. The man was Abani Sen, the florist who lived next door. The boy was his son, Sadhan. Before I forget Mr. Samadar, he said, "Do you know if your uncle had wanted to sell any of his instruments?" "Why, no." Mr. Samadar sounded quite taken aback. Here we have the mention of Surajit Das Gupta. "A gentleman came yesterday. He went to my house since he couldn't find anyone here. He is called Surajit Das Gupta. He collects musical instruments very much like your uncle. He showed me a letter written by Radharaman Babu and said he had already been to this house and spoken to Radharaman Babu once. Anupul told me later he had seen him before. The letter had been written shortly before your uncle died. Anyway, I told him to come back today." Now here we have the most important thing, that is Sadhan's remark about Radharaman's music. "I have seen him too." This came from Sadhan. He was playing with a small instrument that looked a bit like a harmonium, making slight tinkling noises. His father laughed at his words. Sadhan used to spend most of his time in or around this house. He and his Dadu were great friends. "How did you like your Dadu?" Feluda asked him. "I liked him a lot," Sadhan answered with his back to us, "but sometimes he annoyed me." "How?" "He kept asking me to sing the sargam." "And you didn't want to?" "No, but I can sing." "Ah, only songs from Hindi films." Mr. Sen laughed again. "Did your Dadu know you could sing?" "Yes." "Had he ever heard you?" "No." "Well then, how do you think he knew?" "Dadu often used to tell me that those whose names carry a note of melody are bound to have melodious voice." This made very little sense to us, so we exchanged puzzled glances. "What did he mean by that?" Feluda asked. "I don't know." "Did you ever hear him sing?" "No, but I have heard him play." Sadhan's remark about hearing his grandfather, Radharaman, playing an instrument adds an unexpected layer of mystery and surprise to Radharaman's character. Radharaman's family, including Mr. Samadar, believe he has given up playing instruments long ago, making Sadhan's observation surprising and puzzling. "What?" Mr. Samadar sounded amazed. "Are you sure, Sadhan? I thought he had given up playing altogether. Did he play in front of you?" No, I was outside in the garden killing coconuts with my gun. That's when I heard him play." "Could it have been someone else?" "No, there was no one in the house except Dadu." "Did he play for a long time?" Feluda wanted to know. "No, only for a little while." Now student, in this chapter 2, we have lots of intriguing details about the character that actually lead us to make inferences about the plot and the character's motivations. So let's discuss a few inferences. First of all, the German lock. The presence of this lock with the complex code and the fact that it is used to secure Radharaman's bedroom hints at something suspicious. There is something that Radharaman Samadar wanted to hide from his relatives, and this is what we are going to explore in the coming chapters. So let's make another inference. When Sadhan, he makes certain observations. He says that he has heard Radharaman Samadar playing a musical instrument, and this was really amazing for the other relatives because they believe he has actually stopped playing the musical instrument. So again, there is an element of mystery, and we are bound to infer that again there is something hidden that lies in the mind of Radharaman Samadar. So here lies the mystery, and we are going to unravel this mystery chapter by chapter. So there is much more in chapter 2 that we'll take up in another video, and for now I have certain questions for you, again based on the elements of mystery. The first question is, the characters that have been introduced in the story, you have to describe each of them at least in one line. And as we have discussed certain inferences, you have to find out more such inferences in this chapter 2 of the story, the key. And last and the most important thing, you have to identify any other literary devices or techniques that have been used in the passages that we have discussed in chapter 2. So I'm sure students, you are enjoying reading this story and must be waiting for the secret about that cryptic key. I'm sure we are going to explore more about this secret in the upcoming videos. Till then, keep exploring and keep learning. Thank you.